Thanks so much for joining me, and I'm so delighted to welcome my next guest. Senator Michael Bennet is a Democrat of Colorado. He's a member of the Senate Committee on Finance, Intelligence, Agriculture, and Nutrition and Forestry. Senator, welcome back.
Thanks, Julie. It's great to be with you.
Wonderful to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We're having a good time here in Chicago.
That Colorado delegation, are they getting wild?
They are. They always are getting wild. No, they are really enthusiastic. They're really happy to be here. And I think just the day-to-day of Chicago has been great. The weather here is amazing. It's almost as good as Colorado weather, not quite. And people are just having a good time.
They really are.
Yeah.
Will you commit to shorter campaigns?
You know what? It's amazing. It is. We obviously have reasons why we've got longer campaigns in our system, but there are other countries that do it in 45 or 60 days, and that's looking pretty good.
I think we're seeing the wisdom of their ways, indeed. I mean, it would be great for anyone to inherit a presidential campaign with all the early work done and the state organization in place and a bunch of money in the bank and just land into it. So, I mean, that wouldn't happen every time. But, man, this short window, it's just... It's both energizing and also it's a relief, to not spend years on this.
And I think that was, I think the American people in some ways feel battered by our political system. It's a system that's now awash in unregulated money because of the Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United. It's awash in the kind of vitriol that shows up on our social media feeds now. And it just seems to be a system that's designed to make us kind of perpetually mad at each other. And I think most of us don't want to be perpetually mad at each other. I really don't. And I don't think it's naive to believe that. I think that people want to have a system that basically works and credibly can move us, the next generation of Americans, ahead and the generation after that ahead, even though as we disagree and as we go back and forth from one party to the next. They don't want to have just this demented, destructive process that kind of moves us down and moves us down and moves us down. So actually, in that context, it's awfully nice to see the spirit that's developed here and the spirit that's developed in this very short campaign, and it's going to be over in the blink of an eye.
It really is. We were speaking earlier on today's show about Speaker Pelosi is going to address the delegates tonight. She, along with you, were some of the first voices out there asking Joe Biden to step aside. Is she the Nikki Haley of this convention? Is it going to be like a weird reception? Have you gotten any blowback?
I think she's going to get an amazing reception, and just as Joe Biden got an amazing reception, because this hall is full of delegates who honor his public service, who think he's one of the most successful presidents that we've ever had, and who has a legislative track record that's second to none, but who made an unbelievably unusual decision, which was to pass the baton to the next generation, and now you see the excitement that's built around Kamala Harris taking over. So I feel nothing but good energy in this place.
So whatever rancor may have existed over whether he should drop out or not, dissipated.
I think it's long gone. Yeah.
As soon as the change was made, it was just a whole shift, it seemed.
Right, and that tells you something about where we were headed. I mean, I was deeply concerned that we were headed toward a wipeout, that Trump was going to win in a landslide, and that we were going to lose the House and we were going to lose the Senate.
It looked that way.
Yeah, and the stakes are so high for all the reasons that we know that, in my mind, this was really a moral question about where we want this country to head. And the Democratic Party had a responsibility to try to answer that moral question in as emphatic a way as possible, putting our best foot forward. And now I think we've got a real chance to win. But as Michelle Obama said yesterday, you'd be crazy if you take anything for granted. We've got to work and work and work and work. We're going to have to earn this win. And we're going to have to, I think, in the process of doing that, validate the decision that Joe Biden made.
Well, because it seemed like a month ago, Senator, we were talking about, is Colorado in play now?
Right. People actually were asking me. I didn't think it was going to be in play, but there were concerns about states like New Mexico and states like Maine. The map was getting bigger and bigger for Donald Trump and smaller for the Democrats. Now the reverse is true. And the polling has all been better in the swing states than it was before this shift was made. Things feel much better in the House and Senate than they did before the shift was made. But the work is still ahead of us.
I'd love to hear about your relationship with her when she was in the Senate.
I had a good one. She and I were on the Intelligence Committee together. We sat on that committee together. That's a kind of a special committee in the Senate because we have the responsibility to provide oversight of the intelligence agencies for the rest of the Senate, and we get to go to that secret room and hear that secret stuff. You need people that take it seriously and are willing to put their time in, even though you can't obviously campaign on that or really talk about it. And she was a very serious member there. The other place I got to know her was when I introduced the child tax credit bill with Sherrod Brown, which she and Cory Booker were the next two senators on that bill. And then she and I ran for president in 2020. I describe it as my not very well noticed campaign for president.
Now, did your mother call you a psychopath or a sociopath?
She called.
I was trying to remember.
I think what she said really was, Michael, do we need a seventh or eighth candidate in this race? Although I ran into Cory Booker yesterday outside, and it reminded me that she never asked him that question, ever. Or she never asked me that question about him, or Kamala, for that matter. But, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were the ones that won, and they took that child tax credit bill, and they made it the law of the land. They passed it through Congress. We cut childhood poverty in half. We showed to ourselves that we don't have to accept that level of poverty, as a permanent feature of our democracy or our economy in the richest country in the world. And unfortunately, it's lapsed now, but it's the centerpiece of her economic proposals. And I'm really excited about that. And she's been a real champion of that from the minute she walked into the Senate.
That's really interesting. Some other things, meanwhile, Bill Clinton is going to be speaking tonight.
Yeah, he's still a great communicator, and he's going to be, I'm sure, pointing out that that economic anxiety that the American people feel is one that has largely been created by a set of trickle-down economics over decades that has resulted in a world where, if you look at it today, the bottom half of Americans in terms of wealth in this country have less wealth than they did when Ronald Reagan was president. And they control about 2% of the nation's wealth, whereas the top 10% control 75% of the nation's wealth. And I'll bet, my view is that Donald Trump is partly a symptom of that economic concern that the American people have. But my more important point, I guess, is that I think that that's the real threat to our democracy, is the lack of economic mobility that people feel. The Democratic Party is the one that's in the business right now of trying to propose changes to that trickle-down economics, and I think that's what you're going to hear Bill Clinton remind us about tonight.
The three pillars of the Republican platform, economics, which you mentioned, crime and the border, are all improving. The numbers are going Democrats' way.
Right. No question on crime that things are getting better. And on the border, it was disgraceful when Trump sabotaged the bill that was being negotiated in the Senate. I've been critical from time to time of the Biden administration's immigration policy. I've felt, as a member of the Gang of Eight in 2013, we wrote the last comprehensive immigration bill, and to pass the Senate with 68 votes. This is not rocket science. We can actually secure our border and have a pathway to citizenship and do all the other stuff we need to do. But we're going to have to find a way to work together to do it, because we're going to have to do it in a bipartisan way.
Senator Michael Bennet is a Democrat of Colorado. He's a member of Senate committees on finance, intelligence, agriculture, nutrition, and forestry. That's quite a portfolio.
Thank you. Thanks, Julie. I appreciate your letting my mom know.
Well, really appreciate your time
Thanks
today.
for
It's
having
great to
me.
have you.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.